Vince, you're on. All right. Thanks. Welcome back to Senate Education. Final topic today, an act relating to New Americans Advancement Grant. Mr. Giles and Mr. Little, thanks so much for joining us. This might be brief. I think the overarching question, and Senator Hashim will correct me if I'm wrong, and other members of the committee, on can you handle this financially? Will you be able to handle this if we do it financially? And so let's start with that.
Certainly. And just for the record, let me introduce myself. I'm Scott Giles, President and CEO of the Vermont Student Assistance Corporation. And it's a pleasure to be back here to kind of testify kind of on behalf of S191. And I think we'll echo what kind of Julia shared earlier in the day, that we believe that the fiscal impact on this is kind of minimal to negligible, largely because what is changing is the timing with which individuals would be eligible for the grants, kind of rather than at any scale their eligibility themselves. And so as a result of that, we feel comfortable that we would be able to handle this from a financial perspective.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Any concerns? We did have one other question that Senator Weeks raised, I think unrelated to this, but while we have you, we were wondering when the state appropriates money to you and you go through your budget, and if there are funds that are ever left over, how are those, what happens to those? Do they just pop right into the next fiscal year budget?
Yes, and Tom, do you want to kind of provide additional historical color?
Sure, the answer is yes. And that has been so going back at least to the 1980s, and I think mainly because the grant and scholarship programs that VSAC administers with state general funds are ongoing. They're not targeted for a year-to-year basis. So we get applications throughout the fiscal year, and they've always been rolled forward without any legislative language needed to that effect.
Yes, please, Senator.
Thank you for coming back. I appreciate it. Another concern that was raised in another meeting, does VSAC have a process in which they're confirming the information, the identities of people who are applying for these grants? Is there a vetting process to make sure that things are accurate?
Yes, for the community that we're talking about, we have been engaged in some ongoing conversations about individuals with other immigration statuses, particularly undocumented individuals who are undocumented, where there's been a conversation about whether or not in different contexts they should be eligible for state assistance. And there we've got some things that we are trying to understand in our work with the community about how we would be able to verify that. But for the community that is covered within this bill, the answer is yes.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I'd just like to add, I've reviewed the draft number 1.1 that I think was drafted by Ledge Council in response to my draft from last week, and it made a couple of improvements in terms of conciseness, so that looks good to VSAC.
Terrific. Committee, any other final questions on this bill? Senator Hashim, you've been the leader on this. Anybody you'd like to anybody would like to hear from on this? Any final questions for VSAC?
I mean, I don't think the bill could be any more clear, to be honest. Just want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to ask the questions that they might have.
Anything else? UVM? Or did you want to weigh in on this?
Nothing in particular, just
Nothing
here
in
that,
particular.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just taking a look.
Okay. Never mind, I'm sorry, your first name.
Billy Ryzen.
Yeah. Okay, lobbyist? No. Okay.
Like terms had.
Right. Yes, no, I know. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. I think we're in good shape. We'll put this up for a vote, and really appreciate your help and stewardship.
Great. Thank
Appreciate
you very
it.
much.
Good
We'll
luck
see
with
you
it.
at the
Thanks.
signing ceremony. Thank you. Now we have to warn it. So we do, just so senators know, we've heard from now Scott Giles, Senator Notter, Mary Kay Sigda, Tom Little twice, Julia Richter, Mary Kay a couple times, Justin James, Nathan, Pira. Is there anybody else anybody wants to hear from on this? We're not hearing concerns from our university. Ms. Buckley, do you think of anybody else instead? So now, Shane, you feel comfortable with language and everything?
Okay.
All right, we'll put it up on it and get it on the floor. So, okay. Anything else on this or any other bills that we've looked at today?
Question, so
Yeah,
this
please.
would be, so we would vote on it tomorrow?
No, I'm gonna have Beth give us a clean copy
Oh,
and we'll vote on it on Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah.
I have some final comments.
Okay.
I spoke with,
Just generally, we're on this.
no, oh, sorry, not on this.
Okay.
Not on this. On to 20.
I have to put it, so I'm just curious. Just trying to think this all the way through, so. BSAC loans versus BSAC grants.
yep,
Why isn't the loan program also, does a loan program have a residency requirement? I would assume it does for BSAC.
I don't know, I wasn't looking at the loan program.
I'm just wondering why we focus on grants without looking at loans.
Would have been a great question for.
Yeah, I didn't think of it, I'm just trying to kind of think this all the way through, because I know we're
Want to
leaving
get
out.
the voice back? See one at a time. Yeah. So we'll hold that question until they come back, but
I didn't assume that they wrote this. You know, so it's kind of the intent issue, not the mechanism issue. Kind of weird.
Loans have to be paid back, the grants.
Absolutely right, so why are we, you know, I think my.
Would you like to?
oh, but you're
make the
just
residency
opening it, it's not like you're
requirement?
closing out grants, you're saying loans or grants.
Right. I'm
You wanna add
why
loans to
not,
it?
why loans isn't, well, that's.
I'm happy to.
Why
make
not
those.
loans before grants? I mean, I'm just trying to get my head around. My
Sure, so
sequence
the-
questions.
The context, again, is that these grants go to non-educational programs to get training. Well, I guess training is a type of education, but non-educational.
My
Sure, so
sequence
the-
questions.
The context, again, is that these grants go to non-educational.
Senator Hashim. Okay.
Yeah,
Here we go.
that was you.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that?
That's Scott.
But
But it's Scott.
Oh, Scott, you back? Oh, there you go. Hey,
Yeah.
thanks for joining us, Mr. Giles. We're getting a little bit of an echo, so you've got to adjust accordingly on your end. How's that? Perfect. So we have a question for you, Scott. Please go ahead, Senator Weeks.
Yeah, so I'm curious, I don't know who drafted the draft legislation, but I'm curious why we focus only on we focus only on grants from VSAC and not loans from VSAC. And if there's an in-state residency requirement. I'm curious, I don't know who drafted the draft legislation.
That's Scott's end, right?
Yeah.
Focus only on loan, why we focus only on grants.
Did you-
Yeah, exactly. And if there's an in-state residency requirement.
Hey,
Draft
off
legislation.
the live stream in the back. Scott, you've got a live stream going in your office somewhere else? We keep hearing an echo.
Yeah, I just got rid of it. I didn't
Okay,
realize it
thank
was
you
there.
very much. Okay, there we go. So, did you hear the question?
I did. I think that there are kind of two observations that I would make. One, which I think was already made, that that kind of the focus of this particular bill is on what we refer to as kind of it's the non-degree kind of certificate program, as well as kind of programs at CCV. These are kind of lower cost kind of programs. The kind of and kind of what this particular grant is kind of structured for. The loan programs that VSAC is involved in actually don't involve any state funding. Those are kind of targeted towards traditional kind of post-secondary education with the credit underwriting that goes with that. And in our view, we probably couldn't make loans to this particular community until they've established their economic position here, given the underwriting requirements that are associated with those. But we also don't think that it would necessarily be appropriate, as we're trying to support members of this community as they're getting their feet underneath them.
Follow-ups, please. Okay.
Did that answer the question?
Thank you. Thanks, Scott.
Any
And I
others?
think the one final point I'd make, you asked a residency question. We can make loans to any Vermont student who meets the credit criteria and any student who's attending a Vermont institution who meets the credit criteria.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for joining us again. Senator Hewitt, you have some closing comments or observations.
This is S 220, so we're shifting
Libraries.
again, sorry. I spoke with Ms. Del Neo before she left, just to get feedback on the decision points that we have to make. And so the confidentiality was a recommendation.
Okay.
The AOE position was a recommendation, but not the two Department of Libraries positions. Yeah. So just FYI,
You say the last one.
yes,
So one AO, they recommend
that
one
was,
at AOE.
but not the two departments, not those.
Got it. Okay.
The firearms was mainly just to have a discussion.
Yeah.
So not necessarily a recommendation. The library governance one is a recommendation. The department authority sheet is fine with having the religion and political ideology.
Right. Senator Weeks is working on that.
Yeah, and then the appropriations was really only if there was money, and then she is getting the sense that there isn't, so.
Oh, I think we put it in if we think, and but I think we also, if we put money into a bunch of things, we just need to say, what is our biggest thing? And libraries need money, absolutely. I'm gonna keep going back, just reminding us to AOE, staffing, support, those kinds of things. But, okay, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the funding issue was kind of like, municipalities are required for the upkeep of cemeteries too, if they don't do it. Remember that?
Right.
So they were kind of looking for some assistance from us to mandate.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
I would just say a priority for me is that literacy position at the AOE.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, which we just.
But more than just Ms. Lesh, or if you're keeping Ms. Lesh, yeah. And I believe the governors, we'll see the budget, I think the governor has Ms. Lesh in there, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, and getting the CTE position.
And he has a CT
which is
position for
fantastic.
sure, yeah,
So the literacy position's not 220, it's the other.
it's the others,
Right.
yeah.
That's right. Nice work today, guys.
Call Scott back.
What's that?
So should we call Scott back for another question?
Definitely. So as usual, at the end of the committee, I have to decide who gets this, but Senator Williams gave it back to me.
For what?